Hola y bienvenidos al podcast Un gato en tierra de perros, vuestra referencia para la política estadounidense, la cultura y mucho más. Hello, I'm Joe Magaha. Thank you, friends, for being with me for another episode of Un Gato en Tierra de Perros. Today I have with me Mr. Morty Shallman. Welcome, Morty.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's funny because I looked at your bio a little bit, of your profile, and I think we kind of have lived parallel lives because we're both musicians, we're
Yep.
both screenwriters, and
Yep.
we both were Bernie guys back in the day. And it's
Which is fascinating.
yeah, and it feels weird to say back in the day, but 2016 was 9 years ago, and actually I'm sure you got started about 2015 or prior as well because of the whole
Yeah.
pre-election stuff. And
Yeah.
so
No.
you're from Chicago, is that right?
Well, I actually I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in a small town called Rock Island, Illinois, which is on the west. I call it the west coast of Illinois. So, Illinois has the Mississippi River. And I actually grew up on in Rock Island, which is on the Mississippi River. And it's about 3 hours due west on Interstate 80 of Chicago. My mom and dad are both from Chicago. And my dad, he was a Marine as a young man. And then Illinois on the GI Bill. And then when he graduated, he wound up taking a job with as a civilian with the Army at this base called the Rock Island Arsenal, which is in Rock Island, Illinois. And it's a kind of a very it's still in existence. It dates back to the Civil War. It was actually the site of a very kind of notorious Union prisoner of war camp. So a lot of Confederates met their fates there, but through disease. I don't know how they took care of people back then. But anyway, it was an interesting part of my youth. My dad worked there his entire working career, and eventually retired. But yeah, we used to go to the Rock Island Arsenal. It's got these old I don't know if they're limestone or what kind of buildings. It's really a classic place. Right on the river between Illinois and Iowa. So I kind of grew up basically in Illinois, but it's almost Iowa.
Yeah.
So,
and you're Jewish, right? I'm assuming.
I am.
Okay, me too. Me too. So another parallel. Were you raised
exactly.
religious or?
It's interesting. There weren't a lot of Jews in Rock Island, Illinois.
I assumed that.
There were a lot of them in Chicago, where my parents were from. But there was a small and pretty tight Jewish community in Rock Island. But you see, it's called the Quad Cities. I don't know if you ever heard of the Quad Cities.
No, forgive my ignorance.
No worries. You either know or you don't. Some people, it's funny, you run into people who kind of, I know the Quad Cities, but it's basically Rock Island and Moline, which are on, the east side of the Mississippi. And then right across the river is Davenport, Iowa, which most people have heard of Davenport. And then there's a town called Bettendorf. So these four towns together are called the Quad Cities. And there's about 300,000 people there. So out of, say, and it's lost some population over the year because it's kind of a classic Rust Belt kind of area. A lot of manufacturing back in the day on the river. A lot of those jobs went away. For a variety of reasons. But anyway, so so there was approximately, I guess they say 1,000 Jewish families out of 300,000 people. So it wasn't a big Jewish community, but it was fairly tight. And my parents were not religious per se, but once we started to go, they got involved in that community. And obviously people they got to know and reach out to them as a young couple were from the Jewish community. And so we wound up going to the Tri-City Jewish Center, and I went to Hebrew school every day, and had a pretty rigorous, I would say, Jewish education in parallel to my secular education at public schools, but and I got a lot of things out of it. I mean, I'm very proud of being Jewish. I'm proud of my heritage and my culture. Um, but there's just that one thing missing is I don't really believe in God.
Well,
More,
that's common among a lot of Jews
yeah,
as well. It just depends.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm more of an atheist. The character in one of my novels, which hopefully we'll talk about in a little bit, um, is a very Jewish angsty character, not autobiographical necessarily, but he's like saying, I'm probably an atheist, but I usually say I'm agnostic because I don't have enough balls to say I'm
yeah.
I'm an agnostic. He's like hedging his bets. So,
Well,
but
that's
yeah,
good because
so
that's like what Louis C.K. says. He says, you have to be pretty arrogant to say without a doubt that something doesn't exist. It's
exactly,
like saying, "Oh, aliens from outer space don't exist." It's like, how do you know? Do you know everything in the universe? No, so they might exist
exactly.
somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, a wise position to take on many issues
Yeah,
across the board is to be somewhat agnostic because nobody knows everything. Nobody, we get set in our ways, but yeah. So I feel, um, in terms of the knowledge that we know, the what we can determine, agnosticism is probably even the scientific um, best approach. But yet, I suppose when I say I'm an atheist, is you know, um, I don't know, when you grew up, it was a conservative shul, as they say,
yeah, ours was as
synagogue.
well. Yeah.
But you'd have the Hebrew on the one side, and you
Mhm.
have the English on the other side, right?
Mhm.
So we were taught to read the Hebrew, uh, to pronounce it, and to sing it, for the bar mitzvah. But they did, for some reason, they didn't really teach you how to understand it that well. Maybe that's what the English was for on the side. But so I used to read the English, and
Mhm.
I'm like, really? Like, what? And so many times like that. So I guess the idea of there being this creator, this guy up in heaven who's, controlling all of our actions, that never really floated with me. So, but yet, when you think of the philosophy of the Jewish religion and of all the Abrahamic religions, people forget, Christianity, um, Muslim religion, and Judaism, we're all
Yeah, and we came first.
it's you know what I mean? We are. I mean, it all comes from that. So, there's the philosophy of that is something I hold dear, and that and so that leads to a lot of dissonance with a lot of what's going on with the Jewish people right now, and in terms of Israel and all that kind of stuff, which we can get into at some point. But anyway, I did grow up in the Midwest and went to college in Chicago, University of Chicago. Um,
Is that a
and
culture shock from being out kind of in the
oh,
small town?
oh man, oh yeah. I mean, we had a decent public school, right? But going from Rock Island High School to the University of Chicago, it was like going from high school to grad school
Mm.
without any stop in between, and it was like a huge culture shock. But it was actually wonderful. It was actually an amazing experience. Um, at the time I went, we're talking late '70s, early '80s. I had every one of my teachers as an undergraduate was a full professor, and we're talking people who are renowned.
Mhm.
Like I took you had to take they had what's called the Common Core. They kind of invented the Common Core, which has gotten a lot of different connotations over the year, but it's actually a kind of a brilliant concept when it was first started at University of Chicago, where everybody, no matter what you're going to major in, you have to take basic classes in every one of the major fields. Social sciences, humanities, biological sciences, and physical sciences. So you had to do it. So I wound up taking astrophysics as a freshman,
Mm.
and physics wasn't, I was into creative writing, and I loved, social science and that kind of stuff. So I was going to be more of that kind of. But you had to take one, so they had, and my professor for, I'm talking freshman year, astrophysics for English majors. I wound up majoring in sociology, but but still, the, the my first professor was a guy who discovered the solar wind.
Mm. Wow.
Okay, the existence of it.
Yeah.
Another guy was an absolute top expert in black holes at the time, and I learned so much in this class that that um, has kind of carried me through in terms of just the way to look at the world in so many ways later. That it was brilliant. So even though it was a culture shock, University of Chicago, it was a brilliant experience, and I don't know if they still do that. I think nowadays it's I think at the time I went, there was maybe 2,000 undergrads and 5,000 um, grad students. I think they've pretty much doubled. I don't know if they've tripled the undergrads because it's such a cash cow, for schools.
Yeah.
And it was so cheap when I went. It was private school, but when I went, it was so cheap, and now it's literally 10 times. So, but if I assume they still have a lot of full professors. But literally my entire time, 4 years of college, I never had a teacher's assistant. I mean, they might have an assistant,
Yeah.
but I had full professors because it's a very so it was an incredible experience. But I will say that once I was done, I couldn't wait to get. I didn't want to crack another book for a
I
long
hear you.
time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I didn't finish, but I went to a couple of different uh lower colleges. But my father was a college professor for over 30 years at Pomona College, teaching
oh wow,
Spanish. So yeah.
amazing.
I was
You're
sort
a
of the black
California
sheep.
guy.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I got out to California as soon as I could. Like,
Mm.
I remember, growing up in
Was it
Rock
for
Island.
music or just you just wanted to get out?
It was for music, I would say. It was just I wanted to get out. I mean, I had one of my best friends um, in high school. His dad was very successful, and he wound up moving the family out to California, set up his business in California. So I remember, I think it was Christmas before my senior year, like the Christmas break, right? And they invited me to come out. So I went from literally 2 feet of snow,
Mhm.
20 below zero in Chicago, flew out to LA. My buddy picks me up in his dad's convertible. It's maybe 72 degrees, cruising down the 405 up to Bel Air, right? So I'm like, I think this is where I'm coming.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I did. I got out of Illinois as soon as I could, and came out here for music and just creativity and just the whole sense of reinvention, that people come to Hollywood for and all that. So yeah, pretty
Yeah,
fun.
it's kind of wild how we grew up around the same time. I think
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 66, graduated in 84, and uh California during that time was also, it just seemed like the land of plenty and where
Oh yeah,
anything was possible.
sure.
And it seems like the young people are struggling a lot more, not just in California, across the country and
Oh
around the
yeah,
world, really. But it seemed like I never was worried about if I could get a job or if I could,
right.
I just I pursued music until I was 30, so I always worked dead end jobs. So in case my big break hit, I wouldn't
Yep,
be locked down. I kind of learned that.
sure.
I got into that I spent a year in Israel right out of high school
Okay,
in a work
okay.
study program. Yeah, and so
Wow,
they were trying to get us to make aliyah, and part of it was
sure,
the concept is the older you get, the more baggage you get, and the harder it is to leave things behind. Once you get
sure.
married, get a house, and all that, you're not going to leave everything. And the same way with if you're in music, if you have a good paying job and stability, then you get offered a tour or whatever. You're like, should I?
Yeah. See, yeah, you had a good approach there. When I came out, pretty much I'd never, I'd worked, McDonald's and stuff in high school and stuff. Worked at like a big grocery warehouse and stuff. But when I came out to LA, I didn't, other than I knew that one family, but I didn't really, all I had was University of Chicago, right? So I wound up getting fairly decent jobs. But there was that tension, like corporate, like young corporate. Like if I'd
Yeah.
stayed in that world, I would have climbed the ladder,
Mhm.
and just been that guy.
Did you ever get a talking to? I worked for a .com at one point, and they found out I was in a punk band at the time, and the CFO called me in and said, you need to think about your future because, um, he said, and he said also, aren't you a little old to be in a band? And I was like, well,
back when it mattered, yeah.
yeah. And I
If you're
said,
over 30, forget it.
exactly. I said, I consider it like a hobby. It's like some people here play tennis or golf and they spend their money. At least I make money on my hobby, and I'm not hurting anybody, and I'll still do a great job. And he was like, okay, but he had the best of intentions, but I took a little bit of offense just because I was like, who are you? What are you, my mother?
Yeah, it's funny. My very first job, I was very open about pursuing my career, and this is a gig. I mean, I'll put in my time, I'll do a good job, but there was always this resentment. There was on the part of my employer. So you're not really serious, and it did eventually come to a head, and to where, I really did come out here. That was my time to try and make it, but yet there was this tension between, having a real job and trying to make the music. I mean, really I should have worked at Guitar Center or something like that, and just lived a little cheaper, whatever, to just do music. But I was kind of, I had these kind of 9-to-5 corporate kind of job. And the first place it just kind of blew up, and so because of it, so immediately, I'm like, I left that job, and I needed a job, so I just went to the want ads, and wound up getting a pretty good job. Right out, remember the want ads.
Oh, yes.
But I never told them. Yeah,
good call.
Few of my friends. It turned out there were some other musicians who were working, who were, but they didn't have like more of like a young executive type job like I did, So they were.
Yeah, it was like being gay or something. You keep it on the down low.
Exactly. Yeah, like I was a closet musician. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I basically lived in a closet too. So all said, I had this amazing. I kind of miss this place in a way, but one of my first places in LA is I had this bachelor apartment in Westwood. Okay, that's a tremendous location, and it was kind of, remember Melrose Place? It was kind of that kind of a place. It had kind of this old Spanish style. Right off Wilshire. It was on Hillgard, I think it was. You drive up the hill to UCLA. So it was, and Westwood at the time was kind of the happening place. But it was this little one room, and it was just, I mean, my bed, my desk, everything was there, and I think I paid like $300 a month or something like
wow.
that.
Well, when you live in a prime location like that, you probably don't spend that much time in your
yeah.
house anyway.
Yeah, for sure. You get out there, exactly. So anyway, so yeah, so I never said anything about it, and I kept, pursuing it, and I put it, made some progress, had some opportunities, put out an independent EP that, got a little buzz, but yeah, and at the whole time it was all about being signed, and I always I'm not a joiner. I'm not I don't like giving up my rights and freedom. I don't want people telling me what to do. So if something came along that's like, well, here you go, and I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, really? What?
Yeah, good call. I mean, you're basically becoming an indentured servant to them, and I mean, so many bands from the '80s ended up having to pay off. They would give them like 25 grand in advance, which seems like an amazing amount of money to an 18-year-old kid. But then if you don't sell, then you owe that money back to the record label, and you end up broke.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you do have that chance, maybe they could blow you up and stuff like that, but you blow you up as independent too. So to me, it's all about being free and doing the art that I want to do my way, and I've always been able to do that one way or the other.
Good call. I mean, basically, there's always, they always want middlemen to get in the middle. Either you're supposed to have a publicist and an agent. And really, I found in bands, I was able to do the same job that an agent would do, and that way I keep the 15%.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's
it's totally true. Yeah. And it's the same way I am now. I still do music. Obviously, it's like one of my first creative love. But I've been writing the last 5 years. So, well, actually, it's longer actually, but really seriously into publishing like the last 5 years. And by the way, I want to mention that all my stuff is available at morty.org. To get that out there, I don't want to forget.
Morty.org. Hope you guys caught that.
MORTY. Yeah, .org. But anyway, so and I will say, it's like, traditional publishing, I did pursue that for a while to try and get, agents, sent out all like the hundreds of queries and all that kind of stuff, just because, you want to spend your time on writing. You don't want to necessarily, and you think that, hey, I'll find someone, they'll get me the big publisher, you get the big advance, all that. But soon realized that, especially the type of stuff I do, wasn't necessarily the type of stuff that would necessarily an agent might necessarily like pick up. Oh, yeah, we're going to sell a ton of those. Because I write pretty edgy, dark comedy novels that are, no filter. I'm getting out there. Like, but that's the beauty of independence, whether it be music or in publishing. I got no one telling me what I should write. So the last few years, my novels, I've definitely have published them independently, and have just found it one of the most rewarding things to do. Basically, started my own publishing company, and I hire the people who I was asking for permission to be a writer from before. Now I hire those people. So, okay, well, you can proofread my work, or you can give me some editorial notes, or that kind of stuff. Or I'll hire a marketing team, that kind of thing. So it's a much better way to do it. And plus, apart from the cuts that the distributors take, you get to keep proceeds. So it's a much more workable model. That's the only thing I would say that or a major record label, I mean, it all kind of applies, is that they can get you a certain amount of press, that you might have trouble getting.
Yeah, they have a marketing budget, and they have direct access to people that won't talk to artists directly.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a perfect example of my novel that came out in 2023, The Tyranny of Desire, which is a raucous, dark comedy. And, it was kind of positioned it as an absurdist fiction book. And it became #1 in absurdist fiction on Amazon, which was amazing. And I remember reading a New Yorker article about, with a review of a book that came out around the same time as mine, and reading it was on a traditional publisher, not a big huge one, but a traditional indie that had major distribution, a lot like labels, and so this guy got his book reviewed in the New Yorker. Now that would just make my day to be in the New Yorker. But they ain't gonna take mine. I sent it to them, but they weren't gonna read my book. Came out around the same time. I beat him out on Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't necessarily sell books or anything. That's a whole other thing. We could talk for hours on that, how to do that. But my whole point was that, I've always kind of, even though opportunities have come along to be, part of a corporate art thing, I've always just been kind of focused on being an independent,
I think that's the best way to go, because in terms of filmmaking and music and all that, the independence, that's where innovation happens. And there's all these awards, there's the Grammys, the Oscars,
sure,
etc., but they're just in the end popularity contests, and it's part of the big club that we ain't in, as they say. And
well, I've been trying to get into that club.
Yeah, well, the thing is that really what
club,
matters is the sales, because, and not just because of the money, but also because you want eyes on your stuff.
Exactly.
And just because a few snooty people, as they say, the coastal elites read a review and might be more likely to purchase a book, it doesn't mean the vast majority of people do. And you want as many eyes as possible on it, right?
Exactly. You want the eyes on it, and so you have to have a marketing budget. Like, you can't, if you're independent, you have to go into it, knowing that you are going to have to wear that hat. you know. But there are a lot of resources out there. There are people that help you. I actually hired a marketing team for Tyranny of Desire, and they were fantastic. It was some of my best friends that I've met. You know, they're based in Italy. Interestingly enough, I found this incredible resource when I was first starting to say, hey, you know, I'm going to really publish this book, The Tyranny of Desire. I'm going to do it right, you know. So I started doing research and found this great website which was kind of a clearinghouse for editors, book designers, marketers. They're based in England. They're called Reedsy. Actually, great. I should pay me for the plug, but it's great. But these are all like professional people who work for major publishers or award-winning designers, or for one reason or another, are just doing independent work to pick up more money, whatever. You know, because the whole publishing world has changed as well. So, you know, people who are even aren't on the creative, you know, who are on the more of the business, they're trying to, you know, make money too, extra money. And I'm like, why do I need some agent? You know, blah, 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 all that. So I just bypassed all that, started, you know, found incredible people, have my choice, and found people to work within my budget to, you know, bring the book to market. And the team I found was the marketing was based in Italy, and I ended up they actually do a yearly writing conference that they sponsor in different cities in Italy, and I actually went out to do it. 2023, I went out there, and it was one of the times of my life. I just had the best time. I'd been to Italy once as a kid, right out of high school, but I'd never gone as more of an adult, and I just had the best time. I can't wait to go back, actually. So yeah, so
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of all over
Italy's
the place, but
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Europe. I was born in Spain. Also, I have a weird story, but
Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah. And I partly grew up there as well. But yeah, Italy is very much like Spain in terms of the vibe
Mhm.
and the food and the culture.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a very lively place, you know. And I imagine going there with for a conference or anything like that is kind of like a vacation, basically, because you got to go to a few things, but then most of the time you're just, you know,
Yeah.
checking everything out.
Yeah. I decided if I was going to actually go, um, and you know, I had to go if I was going to fly all the way to Europe. I had to go for at least 2 weeks. So the conference was 4 days. I was at this absolutely beautiful ancient city called Matera,
Mhm.
um, which is apparently as old or older than Jerusalem. It's one of the oldest continually inhabited cities in the world, and a UNESCO heritage site and all that. It's over the past, I don't know, 20 years or so. It's Italy kind of has put a lot of investment in it to kind of bring it up, and now it's somewhat gentrified, but it's this incredible place. You can literally get an Airbnb that's built into a mountain. That's like a cave with air conditioning and, you know,
Right.
Wi-Fi, and, you know, and all that. But it was just an incredible place. So yes, I went from Matera for the conference, and I went to Amalfi Coast, and then I went up to, you know, Florence. Just had the best time. Can't wait to go back. Um, you know, I love LA. I can't really see. I always said if you come to Southern California, Los Angeles, my experience is if you make it for 3 years, you never kind of want to live anywhere else. You like
Yeah.
to get out of Dodge. Like I love to get out of Dodge. I love to go to New
Yeah.
York. I'll get travel, you know, month, 2 months, whatever, get out of town. But there's something about the Southern California lifestyle, something about Los Angeles for all of our problems that I just I could never see spacing out of another city. You know,
Yeah.
so
I love it. I mean, I spent most of my life here as well. But I'm thinking possibly of moving when I retire, just because of the taxes and the affordability of everything. Because yes, we have amazing weather, we have the
yeah,
beaches, we have the mountains, we have so many things, and we have
oh yeah,
amazing food. But I want to be able to, you know, once I'm on a fixed income, which is kind of scary, especially in this economy. Hopefully, it won't be this
yeah,
economy by the time I retire. But
yeah,
um,
for sure.
you know, I'd rather live somewhere maybe where I can go out at least a couple times a week and have dinner, and not be like, you know, the kind of stereotypical pensioner who stays at home because they don't have any money to do anything, you know. Uh,
Right, right.
that's kind of a
Yeah.
miserable, and then you just end up going back to work anyway, just to make ends meet, and you
You
know,
want to have some fun. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
exactly. I like to socialize. Um, I like to go to bars. I like to go to restaurants, and you know, it's
Likewise.
expensive.
It is, man. When you're
Yeah.
single, I'm a single guy. I don't know. Are you married or single or?
I'm married. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
good for you. Good
Oh,
for you.
thank you.
I tried that once. I tried that once.
Everybody
I
should try it at least once.
I tried it once and I wound up back in my parents' basement. She got
That
the
can
house.
happen too.
I got the parents' basement. But at least I didn't have any kids. So my life would have been a lot different. Not that I have anything against kids. I have 10 nieces and nephews. I love my nieces and nephews. I have a godson who's just just was amazing. And there's three. And nieces and nephews that go from like 14 to 30
Right.
in terms of,
Right.
you know. And I love that. And, I mean, we almost had a kid, when I was married. I mean, this was back in the 80s when I,
Yeah.
almost got
Yeah.
married. And, but yeah, so no, so I'm out in the dating world, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was
which
like,
is
man, you get a
expensive. Yeah, especially in LA. I mean,
holy moly. You got to a decent dinner, get some wine. Of course, I like nice places. I like to order. I got to get the bottle of wine, right?
right. Yeah.
Dang, man, just like you can't go out for less than a couple $100.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah. You end up
you know,
doing the thing that girls often want to do, which is like meet for coffee first, just because.
which is not a bad way to go.
Yeah.
Actually, that is kind of a good way to go.
Yeah.
I don't really do the dating apps. I think that's totally appropriate with the dating app, where you haven't never really met this person.
Yeah.
But I don't really like the dating apps. They don't really work for me. I do really good meet. I like to meet potential dates, women,
Yeah.
out and about, going to
Do
clubs,
you
going to.
do you still gig periodically or regularly?
I do from time to time, and that's one of my resolutions for 2026 is I want to gig more often.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's a way to that was always my way to meet women.
it's a great way.
Yeah.
It's a great way. And see, next year, one of the projects I'm working on is kind of focusing on my very first novel I wrote in 2010. It was actually the culmination of a long process. I never published it as a hard copy. I know it was always an ebook, and the reason it was is because I've developed my own genre that I called literary pop, where you kind of mash up pop songs and literature, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've been exploring that in different ways. Like my first solo record was called Love's Oblivion, a novel and 12 pop songs. And all that stuff you can get on my website. So it's like every song is like a chapter in a novel. And so then I started actually writing fiction, really focusing on my fiction. And I'm writing a coming of age book about an artist, a singer songwriter. And so he's trying to seduce a girl under a tree with a song. And I'm like, maybe I should write that song. Maybe that song should be in the book.
Yeah.
So I started putting that song in there. And then I realized, gosh, I could just go crazy with this. So I'm writing new songs. I'm pulling old songs that might fit in this part. Before you knew it, it was kind of this opus that had like 45 songs in this book. And the only way I could distribute at the time was, well, it was right when ebooks were happening. So it was right when Apple was launching, iBook, right? So I'm like, I know, I'll do it with links to stream the MP3s,
That's
which was
amazing.
which was great in concept.
Yeah.
It was a tricky thing to do at the time because the technology hadn't quite caught up. But yes, that was my kind of innovation. And of course, now you do it with a QR code or something like that with a hard copy, which is what I'm going to do. So anyway, you click on the link. You say you'd be reading the book in iBook, and then you click on the link, and all of a sudden you got to have an internet connection. You got to go to a different program. It would kick you out. So there's a lot of issues with it. Anyway, it was like the good thing about being an ebook is I could keep doing iterations of it. So there's 1.0, there's 1.1, 1. I think the version that's up now is 1.6. And what there is, and the system it works a lot better now, but I don't have a link for each song. There's a link where you can just go to a playlist that's on my website and you can stream all the songs in it.
Do you do an
So,
audio book as well where you could plug in
well,
the, yeah.
that's what I'm going to do because I did my first audiobook for The Tyranny of Desire,
Mhm,
which is not a novel with songs per se, although I wrote a theme song.
mhm.
And I've been in the Recording Academy for a few years, so we'll come back to Last of the Zacharies because that's kind of my next thing that I'm doing. But Tyranny of Desire, I did the audiobook, and I'm like, I've been in the academy for so long, man. I should submit it. So I actually did submit it this last year, and was on the first ballot. There's two ballots, and so I cleared my way through onto the first ballot and ran a campaign and got to know a lot of people. And I didn't make the cut for the
Mhm.
5 nominations, but I met so many people and made so many good connections. And I realized there is kind of a game that's played. It is a relationship based thing, especially if you're an independent. And
Yes.
especially in the categories which are a little more obscure, like audiobook, it's slightly more obscure. Although I was still up against almost 200 other submissions. Um, so I had so many people that I'd met who, were very supportive. Who, when the nominations actually came out, said, "Dude, we kind of thought you'd make it," because I had a theme song. I read it myself, and so I think I positioned myself well for future audiobooks. Let's just put it that way. And out of the 5 that made it, none of them were novels. It
Mm.
wasn't a single novel. They're all a life story or a famous person. So I lost out to like the Dalai Lama. Okay, I lost out. Trevor Noah. For
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
big
How are
big.
you going to compete with
Um,
that?
well, I think I maybe did okay because there
Mhm.
was one that wasn't as big. So the guy from Milli Vanilli wrote
Oh,
a. He's got his life story out, and that had like a documentary, like maybe a movie about that and all that.
yeah.
So he made it. I actually met him at an event. He's actually a really cool guy.
Nice.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to
very
think what the
sad
other two
about
were.
his partner. I don't, I always used to
Yeah,
joke that was it Millie or was it Vanilli that died?
I
Yeah.
know. So it's Milli Vanilli, so that's kind of his comeback, telling the true story of that, which is fascinating. But it's just interesting. And then there's one, actually some friends who are nearby who I'm becoming friendly with, who produced an audiobook for a woman who had dated Elvis, who actually wrote like hits back in the 60s. She wrote like and sang like to
Mhm.
know no love to know no no that song.
Oh wow.
I think Carol Comics. Anyway, her life story, she made it in. So, and that was kind of an independent project, I think. So I think there's hope for me. I think I have, in terms of if I want to get a Grammy, I'm going to do my thing no matter what. But it would be nice to have that, kind of thing. I'm not going to
Mhm.
say no, but it is something that where it's interesting that, like I say, none of them were novels. So I'm kind of going my own way, even in terms of audiobooks.
Mhm.
So having done the Last of the Zachary's audiobook, or the Tyranny of Desire audiobook, which is basically a novel. I read it, and I did write a theme song.
Mhm.
So now that kind of inspired me to go back to my first book, which is Last of the Zachary's, with all those songs, to actually now make what I hope is like the world's greatest audiobook, because it's actually a literary novel where songs happen. So it's almost like a musical novel in a sense. And so I've divided it into 3 parts, and so I'm going to release it as a trilogy. Each section is going to have 15 songs, um, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm tweaking the text, and I'm kind of assembling. The songs are somewhat fluid in terms of what's actually going to make the cut, and then
Now, are
just a
you
question.
thinking of possibly, because I know you're a screenwriter as well, are you thinking of making screenplays out of these as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've adapted a screenplay for Tyranny of Desire, just kind of shopping that around and trying to find some independent, um, you know, uh, money to do that. Of course, if a studio would want to do it, I should never say never. I doubt it. It's a pretty edgy story, so it could work really well as a. Now we're talking Tyranny of Desire. That could work really well as like a limited series on HBO.
Mhm.
Something where you can be kind of, sexy
Edgy.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
edgy, explicit. It would be great for HBO or Stars or something like that. It would be awesome. So, um, so I'm working on that for sure. So I'm definitely adapting that. But it's there's something about writing novels that, screenplay, I love writing screenwriting. I love the format. I learned a lot from screenwriting that helps me with my books in terms of how to structure a story, how to tell things, how to make things work. There's a lot of overlap. But the thing about a novel is, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So a
Tangible.
screenplay is kind of a blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a blueprint for a house that may or may not be built.
Or it
You know what
may
I
or
mean?
may not be built well too. I mean, depending on who
Exactly.
takes on the project. Yeah.
Exactly.
And your name's going to be on it regardless.
Exactly. So this is War and Sex,
Mhm.
my kind of quasi political book. Now this, it's like, every aspect, every word, cover. I wrote a theme song for this one too. That one actually came out in 2024. We can talk about that one a little bit.
You know what?
But
Just occurred to me that you could also do, even though it probably would be too expensive. But do you remember back in the day when they used to have little records that would come with your cereal box or whatever, and you
sure.
rip it off? You could do that and have it on in the inside cover, and people take it.
Yeah.
But then again, you need record players for that. But you could, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm going, some of these songs I'm using are kind of archival because I'm showing the growth of this artist. Now we're talking Last of the Zacharys now.
Yeah.
So the trilogy. So I'm actually doing I'm going to actually publish it as a hardcover for the first time, hardcover paperback. I think what I'm going to do is when the songs happen in the story, I'm going to have a QR code. Okay. So each song will have its own QR code. And then if you're reading the physical thing, you can scan it and you can do it. Now, if you're reading the ebook with, on your phone or laptop or anything, I'll have a link and then that can go, it's better now, if, you can kind of listen as well. It might kick you out of the program. There's all sorts of formats. I'm going to do an enhanced ebook where the songs are actually embedded in the file. Now, which is one of the reasons I'm dividing it into a trilogy because, you do an ebook by itself is maybe, 1 meg or something. But you put in 15 songs, suddenly we're talking, I don't know, 45 meg, 50, even MP3s. You're talking about a 50 meg thing. So it becomes a little bit bigger file to deal with.
Which
So that's
is
why I split
easier
it.
now than back, at
Back
what they
then,
call
yeah,
the
for
turn
sure.
of the century or whatever. I remember
Yeah.
taking forever to download 10 megabytes, and now it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's more just a file. It's a little cumbersome to do 150 meg, on an iBook, iPad or iBook Reader or something like that. So that's, and also it's the idea of it really works well as a 3-part series. So you kind of see 3 stages of this character's life and the evolution of the character and the evolution of the music as well. So, so it's an interesting project on many levels. So I'm going to be right now working on that, doing the final tweaks to the actual text, nailing down the songs that are going to be in it, and then I'm going to start releasing those 1 per month next year, hoping to launch the actual first book of the trilogy in March 2026. That's my goal. That's not that long from now. That's the goal. If it's June, it's June. But yeah. But it's pretty far along. So I think I should be able to do it, especially if I'm not trying to dump all the songs at once, So I think it'll be, because that's going to take some time to decide, which ones are going to be more acoustic, which are going to be more production. Maybe I'll do them all acoustic to begin with, and then, so this is all.
Do you hire a band or do you play all the instruments on the recordings? Or?
It really depends. I can do everything, but I love it when I have the opportunity to hire other people. So, for example, for my last, for the Tyranny of Desire theme song, I basically did it all at home, but then I hired my buddy, Todd Zuckerman, who's one of the world's greatest drummers, who plays for the band Styx.
Nice.
And he's been playing with Styx since like the 90s. He wasn't original from the 70s Styx. He's a lot younger, but he's been in the band since then, and they tour the world, and they're one of the still consistently one of the most uh,
Huge. Yeah. Big.
huge, financially successful, and give it the incredible shows. Like these guys are incredible. Like if you like good, it's not prog rock per se, but it's good, sophisticated rock and roll. You know, great vocals, great guitars, great songs, great keyboard. Everything's great, and you want to go see that. Like if you really want to see that, they do that. Styx does that. Anyway, so Todd, when he's not touring, he lives in Austin,
Mm.
and he's got a setup where he just knocks out tracks for people. He just knocks out drums tracks. And so I said, I did the theme song. I said, wow, this is really good, but it's got kind of an 80s vibe, but it could really use real drums. I'd done it with Drum Machine. And he just nailed it, man.
Nice.
I mean, I was like, and then he sends you back all the tracks edited, everything, like 8 tracks of drums, everything's recorded to perfection. And all I do is give it to my mixer, and he pops it in and
Yeah.
makes
Was
it
it
sound pretty.
all
So,
digital, I'm assuming, or was it analog?
well, no, he records everything. He records on the Pro Tools, but he's using real drums. So
Oh, okay.
everything, yeah, it's not going on the tape, but it's you can't tell. I mean, it sounds amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's recording on the best mics, the best drums, and the best drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I bring that and kick it into my thing that I created on Pro Tools at home in my little home studio, which is I'm facing right now. You can't, my den upstairs, but it's
Nice.
like I'm facing my kind of workstation
Yeah.
and maybe see the keyboard. So I can kind of knock around and do everything, and depending on the budget I have at the given time, I might just. I always like to hire. I've got some guys. One of my buddies, Scott Bennett, who lives in England. He used to play with Brian Wilson,
Mm.
and the guy can literally play every instrument
Yeah.
better than the next
Yeah.
and sing his ass off.
Nice.
And I mean, he literally toured with Brian Wilson for I don't know how many years, 15, 20 years. And he I'll send him a track if I got the budget, and I'll say, hey, give me, Benetize it, do your thing, man. Whatever
Yeah.
you hear, just give it to me, and then I'll just wind up, most of it I'll use, but I'll give it to my mixer.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. I don't, other than those two guys, I can pretty much get everything I need. Although I love playing live with a band, uh,
Yeah. I was
but
gonna say
mostly
about
solo.
analog. Years ago, I had what he called himself an audiophile, which I think we're all audiophiles. We're kind of like we're all foodies to a certain extent. But
Yeah,
he had a studio, and he was offering for bands to record no matter what kind of music on his analog equipment, because he said, digital sound doesn't travel digitally. It travels in
yeah,
waves, and
it's
so
true.
when it's digital, it's compressed. You lose the overtones and the undertones,
Oh
and it
yeah,
has a very different feel to it. So I've always that's one thing I guess that we've lost with the digitalization of music. I mean, but I don't know that
yeah,
that young people know the difference.
yeah. I think there's something to be said for and they spend a lot of money. There's all sorts of plugins
Yeah,
that are designed to emulate that tape thing to go back to it.
yeah.
I've had been lucky enough to have a few of my tunes mastered by the great Bernie Grunman, who literally is 10 minutes away from my house,
Yeah.
his studio, and everything is digital. I'm bringing them,
Mhm.
but they have these proprietary converters, right? So he'll take it, he'll put it in his system, and they'll convert it to analog and then back to digital,
Mm.
and it picks up those over. So it's still ultimately going to wind up as a compressed file on Spotify,
Mhm.
who are basically the devil.
Well, all
But
the big corporations are, but
yeah,
what can you do? I mean, it's like
yeah,
people are trying to
exactly.
fight Ticketmaster. Back in the day, it was a big
I know,
deal.
man. I
And
know.
ultimately
At
they
least you get a
gave up.
live. At least you
Yeah,
get a live experience.
yeah,
But
yeah,
Spotify, yeah, that's a necessary evil. I mean, it's basically like a loss leader. It's like it's advertising at this point.
yeah,
To get it out on Spotify, you got to be there, but you're not going to make any money off. So anyway, so back to playing live.
mm,
I plan to gig live because I plan to do basically like a system of 15 releases next year in
mm,
context of this audiobook,
mm,
of the novel, which will be an audiobook, and like I said, there's 15 songs, so each song is going to be its own little release, And so
Is
I
it
could
going to be
come to
like
the
a
show.
book signing thing as well,
Oh
or?
yeah, absolutely gonna do book signing. So
Nice.
I'm plan to put out the theme song in January. Then I'm gonna put them out in order as they appear in the book. And then around March, I'm gonna launch the book. That's the idea. That's the scheme. I'm just kind of like I haven't got it all figured out. So out there in podcast in Joe's podcast universe, don't kill me if it doesn't come out till June. But I'm shooting to have it come out in March. And it's going to be great. I can't wait to see that book, which was my first novel, actually in hard copy. But it's going to be in all sorts of formats. It's going to be, it's got the hard copy, paperback, hardcover, paperback, ebook, enhanced ebook, audiobook, and I don't know what else is there. So it's going to be super fun.
I
And
don't know. I mean,
yeah,
hologram, I guess, eventually.
yeah, I could appear in your. So I'm going to do live shows. I want to do live gigs, start gigging. It's hard to gig in LA more than once a month, even every couple of months, just to try and get your crowd out. People, there's so much to do in LA on any given night. You know,
Yeah.
you can go out. I mean, I'm a big football fan. I'm really into the Rams. I like to like to go see the games at SoFi. Okay, you got I don't know how many tens of thousands of people at SoFi. At the same time, you might have a game at the Dodgers, and you might have a huge concert at the crypto. You know what I mean? So,
Do you ever go down to Orange County to play or other beach towns?
that's what I'm going to start to do. I would, and if I might hit you up for some suggestions on where I pretty much keep it to original music though. So it's got to be a place that's down with
Well,
me doing like a
you could
set.
even open for a big name at the Coach House. They have kind of
Yeah,
a pay to play deal where it's not really pay to play, but they give you a block of tickets and you have to sell a certain amount.
yeah.
Uh, and I mean, a lot of
I
bands, what they do is they just give them out, but you want to give them out to people that you know are going to show up too.
exactly. And
Yeah,
I have some friends down in OC, and I would, and it's beautiful down there, of course.
yeah.
So yeah, I would. I would. I've got to look into that. So that's what I'm thinking. I want to start playing more, and basically just within 100-mile radius of LA, there's tons. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
huge
you could do the
population.
wine country up in Santa Barbara as well.
Yeah, yeah,
We did that.
exactly, which I
We played
love.
the Calira Winery up in Santa Barbara years ago, and it was
Cool.
like awesome. But it was over 100 degrees, and like people were passing out and stuff because everybody's drinking wine.
Yeah,
It
my
was fun.
friends, not this birthday, but my birthday's in March, which is why I'm looking at March for my release. But two birthdays ago, my friends took me up to Santa Ynez Valley for
Nice.
and it was the best time,
Were you
man.
guys throwing out all the lines from Sideways or no?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
We went to the famous what's the restaurant?
yeah.
My
We went there
birthday.
too. Is it the? I can't think
My
of it.
God.
Battle or something.
I
I
mean,
can't think of the name of it.
oh my God, my friends are gonna kill me.
Yeah,
We
I
had so much great food there. Went to
yes.
Solvang, went to all these wineries, and I love that. I love going down to Mexico too. I love going down to Ensenada, the wine country down there.
Yeah.
I might even go down there for a couple weeks, do a little riding down there. Just
Be careful
uh,
because it's kind of crazy down there right now. But I don't know. I
it is
had
a
a
little
guy.
bit.
Yeah, I had a
Go
guy.
ahead.
I have interviews in Spanish, and I had a guy on from journalist from Mexico City just this past Monday, talking about they murdered the mayor, and not in Ensenada, but
Oh
in
yeah.
Mexico in Uruapan of a city, and then there were protests in Mexico City, and there's a
Oh
big
yeah.
conflict between the cartels and stuff. So you have to kind of keep your eyes open.
Yeah. I mean, I did go to Mexico City last year. Had a fantastic time. It was a short little trip, and I went with my party friends versus my foodie friends.
Yeah.
So the party friends, Mexico City is this incredible city with a huge culture, incredible food. I don't think I had the best tacos of my life, but we basically ate street food and went to nightclubs. That was it. Had a great time. But my foodie friends, I actually drive down to Ensenada. Um, we're talking hour and a half south of the border.
Yeah.
Anything can happen anywhere, but there's a
In the
lot of
Valle de
expats.
Guadalupe, I guess they kind of protect probably tourists,
Oh
I would
yeah,
assume. Yeah.
Valle de Guadalupe is incredible. There's a lot of Americans down there. Um,
There are a lot of
You know,
surfers
who
that go
knows?
to like Rosarito and stuff too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love going down there. That was my first experience with Mexico. So we drive down. I got the global entry pass. Um, so you know, I don't have to wait in line for 3 hours to get back. You know, I can get
And
back
from
pretty
what I
quick.
understand now, because my wife has a cousin who's a surfer and goes down there,
Yeah.
you can get cell phone access down there without having any set up through Starlink. Didn't used to
Oh,
be. He used
oh
to go
yeah,
down there and he would like disappear for a month, and he would call
yeah,
his parents like once a week from a payphone, But now you have Starlink, so you can hook up,
yeah. If I went that far off the grid, I think any place I'd go would probably have Wi-Fi, but it can be kind of janky. Um, you know, but yeah, no, the Starlink, I always think about that. I would just want, if I was, going off anywhere for a month or two to really dig in and right, and I want to have internet access. The lower, the budget Starlink. That's incredible. I mean, that really looks great.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that'd be a way, something to think about for sure.
for sure.
But yeah, so I'm not really worried about it. I did have some friends who went down to the Valle, their motorhome. They're just traveling. They're retired. They drive all around the country, and they went down there. I kind of turned them on to it, and they kind of were coming back. And I guess they got stopped. But this was a little. This was a little. A few months ago. I don't know um, how it is right now, but they said they actually got stopped by the Mexican authorities before they got to the border, which has never happened to me. I mean, usually if you're going to get stopped at all when you're going in, they usually don't stop you.
Mm.
You know, coming from you just cruise right in
Yeah,
from
sometimes they'll want
San
what they call la
Ysidro.
mordida, they want to bribe. Uh,
Yeah, but on the way back, but usually not coming in, but on the way back, they actually got stopped and searched because Trump was making a big deal about, you're bringing, we want to stop all the fentanyl coming up, and so they were saying, well, I guess the word came down, we'll make it a little more difficult, even though we're talking like, these, there's no way on earth these people in their kind of tricked out Mercedes motorhome are gonna be
yeah.
carrying a load of fentanyl. But it's
Yeah,
like, but
you know,
so maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm not planning on having any issues, but you never know. You can't plan on it, right? So
for
yeah,
sure, for sure. Well, I think we're coming up on about an hour, and
yeah,
I'm gonna have to change the title of this because I thought we were gonna talk politics, but of course I just throw it out, and you're a
yeah.
fascinating guy, so it's like I
Thank you,
think
man.
we're gonna have to make this a multiple episode thing sometime.
Yeah, we could for sure. And the one thing I did want to talk about, but we are coming up on an hour, and I'm gonna need to get some food, and I'd love to do a part two with you, and we can get a little more political because my book War and Sex is kind of political. So maybe I'll send you, if you give me your address when we sign
Yeah,
off, or email me, I'll send you a signed copy of it, and if you get a chance to read it, we could talk about it because it's definitely, if you want to understand where I come from politically, that's the book. That's where it is.
I'll
So
definitely shoot you my address. I'd love to read it, and in fact,
yeah.
once I read it, I'll pass it on to my father, who's an avid reader as well.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah,
That'd be
yeah, yeah.
great. But I'd love to send you a signed copy. It's a really cool thing, but it's a fun read and it's pretty fast. And I think I'd love to get your reaction. But one thing we should explore, and we'll just make this a teaser for the next one, is we both were Bernie guys,
Yes.
but I think we kind of diverged on where we wound up the choices we're making after that. And I'm kind of fascinated by that because I think if we can figure that out, we can figure out how to come back together to kind of straighten stuff out in our country because we both know that both parties
Are
are a
screwed.
mess.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
corrupt as hell. Yeah.
yeah. And I'll just leave this with one line from my favorite author, Gore Vidal, who I wish so much was alive right now. One of my favorite authors, but an incredible man, incredible author. His series on American history, Lincoln, Burr, all that are historical novels. He kind of pioneered that. You know, you learn so much from him, even though it's in the context of a novel. But he always said one of his best lines was, "It's hard to have a third party in the United States because we don't have a second party." we have one party
Yeah.
with two right wings.
Mhm.
One of them, the Democrats, are a little nicer. They're a little, cozy, a little fluffier. You know, so, a little softer on the other. Then you've got the Republicans. They're a little, more hard ass. Well, not his words, but you get the idea. So, and I don't even know if we have two right wings now. I think we've got a kind of a right wing and a broken wing, and we can decide who's who. Maybe they're both broken wings. But anyway, for our next talk, let's definitely go there, because I think the Bernie was the guy. He still is the guy, and both parties have a lot to answer for what has happened since that election in particular. So, but anyway, Joe, it's absolutely wonderful talking to you. And I didn't let you get much of a word in edgewise.
No, that's the way I like it. I prefer to ask questions rather than, even though I do sometimes self-indulge and throw out stuff about myself, but that also is trying to spur more conversation. But I love,
Sure.
and I hate to say it because, I'm American, even though I was born in Spain, and
Sure.
I identify as Spanish as well, but not like Hilaria Baldwin. At least I went to school there and I was born there, but,
Gotcha.
but when I ask Americans questions, they're usually not able to extrapolate the way Europeans and Latinos are. I mean, partly because Hispanic people love to hear the sound of their own voices, and they'll talk forever on a subject. But
Sure,
like
sure.
you ask Americans a question, and I have to make it layered, because otherwise it's going to be a yes or no answer. And I'm like, can you give me a little more? Can you stretch it out? You're great. You're great with that, because you got a lot to say. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much, man. And it's great talking to you. I love that we connected on Twitter, and we had such a respectful back and forth. And I look forward to doing part two, at least part two. So we'll just be in touch about that. So I'd love to talk to you about War and Sex, but it would be great after you read it. I'd love to get your feedback on it.
For sure, for sure.
Anyway,
and
man,
for the listeners, it's morty.org. Is that right?
Yes, morty.org. There's more than you would ever want to know about me there. You can see my books, my music. Got a blog. Got anything you'd want to check out is there. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience and to just get to know you better too. So
same here. So thank you again, and to our listeners, until next time.